So you were facing a very challenging situation and you handled it really well. That's great. But you're still feeling emotionally triggered. You still have very unpleasant thoughts around the situation and you're just not at peace. Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you how to stop suffering so that you're no longer triggered by a situation and so that you can transition from stress to being peaceful and more present. My name is Olivia Pinto. I help freedom seekers create abundance and harmony while living the life you truly desire. I put out a brand new video every single week, so make sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it to get notified every time I post a new video for you. Now, in my previous video, I shared with you how to approach any given situation with less stress and handle it in a healthy, practical, and efficient way. So, if you haven't watched it yet, make sure to watch it, and I will leave a link for you above or below this video. So, what happens if you handle the situation, but you're still feeling charged? You're still caught up with what I like to call our personal story, which is a reflection of the emotions that are triggered, the content of our thoughts, our attitudes, our perception, the interpretation of the situation, our opinions, and all that. So what happens if we're still very emotional about it and if our thoughts really bother us and we're really not at peace? Well, here's a story. I went with a friend of mine to this amazing restaurant and it took forever to get there because we waited and waited. It's such a good restaurant that it takes forever to book a table. And finally, we're going to have this meal together to catch up because we haven't seen each other in a while. And because I told her so many times, oh my God, you have to try this amazing dish. Oh my God, it's an amazing dish. You've got to have it. So we're driving to the restaurant and of course we're greeted very nicely. We get a beautiful table, the atmosphere is fantastic, the decoration, everything. The waiter comes and gives us the menu and we look at it and of course we order starters and wine and drinks and this and that. And my favorite dish, obviously. So the waiter goes to the kitchen and we keep catching up and chat and all of a sudden the waiter comes back and apologizes. I'm really sorry, madam, but we don't have your favorite dish. What? You don't have it? You know that I came all the way just for that? Do you know that I've been talking to my friend forever about it and it took so long to come here? Oh my God, you don't have this dish. You know what? It's your fault. You are a terrible, unprofessional waiter. I mean, really, when you brought us the menu, you should have told us what you don't have today on the menu. You wasted my time. Because of you, I'm disappointed, and I'm really pissed off. As a matter of fact, I want to talk to your manager right now. This is scenario one. Now, let's release all this anger. Let's go to scenario two. Oh no, oh my God, I was looking forward to something. You know how many times I was telling my friend that she has to try this amazing dish. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, but you know what? We'll have to come back again. Okay, so, no favorite dish. Okay, so what else can you recommend that is really good? So this is scenario two. Two different scenarios to the same fact that my favorite dish is not an option today. So in order to stop suffering, so that you're no longer triggered by a situation and you can transition to being peaceful and more present and more open to new possibilities, we need to understand a very important key concept. No matter what the situation is, we can either accept it or resist it. In the first scenario, when I got all upset and angry and wanted to talk to the manager and blame the waiter for my disappointment, obviously I was resisting the situation. And when I was disappointed, but well, we'll have to come back, and what else do you have to offer? I was disappointed, but I was also open-minded to new possibilities, and I was accepting the situation without resisting it. Let's dive a little bit deeper. So in every situation, we have what is happening in the situation, which relates to the fact or reality. And then we also have our perception of what is happening or the thoughts of how we think things should happen. And this is obviously our personal story that is often dictated by our expectations. Once we see that these are two different things, what is happening and what should happen are not the same, that's when we can start looking at why do we suffer. And the reason is that when something happens the way it happens, but our expectations are different than reality, it creates a gap. And this gap brings our discomfort or our suffering. The bigger the gap, the stronger our suffering. As we can see here, that the red line is thicker, the bigger the gap is. The bigger the gap is, we are really, really suffering more and more and more. And this gap actually reflects our resistance to the facts and to the situation. If we have a situation where reality happens a certain way and our expectations or our story accept completely the reality or the facts as it is, when it's equal and there is no gap, there is no suffering. That's when we really feel that we're peaceful and we're open-minded and we are more playful and more curious and we're more at ease and people around us are more at ease. And this is really the ultimate scenario. However, when the gap is big, and the bigger the gap as we see, the stronger our suffering, we are really stressed out. We are uncomfortable, we are angry, we tend to blame the situation or blame people around it, or we blame ourselves and we feel guilty. And this stress is very, very, very unhealthy. It doesn't really help to resolve the situation. So this is what I put together and I call it the suffering formula, because once we see it so clearly that the higher our expectations, the higher our resistance, the more we are not at peace and the more we suffer, then obviously the next step is very, very simple and is to understand that in order to stop suffering, we need to close the gap, or in other words, to stop resisting. In order to stop resisting, well, if we have the facts and we have a story, all we need to do to close the gap and stop resisting is really get rid of the story. And once we get rid of the story, we are really in tune with the facts and we are seeing much more what is happening and addressing much more what is happening. And we may have to change what is happening or adjust something around what is happening, but we're not so caught up and we can be at peace and we can be more open-minded. Now, I'm not referring to accepting reality by adopting the attitude of, well, everything happens despite me, and so I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to just observe and see my life passing by. Not at all. Of course, we do have goals, desires, plans, and we do need to put them into action if you want to achieve anything and be successful. I'm referring, however, to the ability of going through life, through the ups and downs of life without suffering, to flow with the fluctuations of life, whether pleasant or unpleasant, so that instead of just resisting and building a story with charged emotions and destructive thoughts, we do act in ways that support our values, our desires, our goals, our vision, while flowing with the facts that life brings us. So, how do we do that? Well, as you know by now, I love simplicity and I'm a great follower of simplicity. So I broke down the how into 5 very simple steps. Step number 1, look or visualize in your mind the suffering formula. And later on, I'll tell you where you can look at it. So once you look at the suffering formula, it leads us automatically to step number 2. Because step number 2 is to really remind yourself that your source of suffering has very little to do with reality and with the facts that are happening in the moment, and much more with the interpretation and the meaning and the judgment and the opinion and all the things that we give it to the facts. In other words, our personal story. And once you see the suffering formula, you realize it really shows you very clearly that if you want to stop suffering, you need to stop resisting. You need to close the gap. And step number 3 is repeat to yourself, either verbally, out loud, or in your mind, that it's just a story. It's just a script. It's just a scenario. It's just one possibility of you responding to this situation. Step number 4 is to say, okay, that script, that scenario doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. It doesn't support me. It doesn't bring peace. It brings stress. It doesn't reduce the gap. It increases the gap. Clearly, it is not a good script for me right now. So choose to close the book and put that script aside and be open to possibilities. So imagine yourself really putting this book aside and opening a new book that is blank, nothing is written on it, and allow any possibility of different reactions, different perceptions. Look at the fact from a different angle and do whatever it takes to stop resisting the facts. And step number 5, you can close your eyes. I do it automatically. You can close your eyes or you can keep them open. Focus on your breathing. And when I say focus on your breathing, I don't refer to changing the breathing patterns or breathe deeply or whatever. Just be aware of when the body is expanding, when is it that you inhale, breathe in, and when is it that you exhale and breathe out. Just observe it. Be aware of your breathing. You cannot be aware of the breathing that happened 3 seconds ago or aware of the breathing that will happen 5 seconds from now. You can only be aware of the breathing and observe the breathing that happens right here, right now. And that's one reason that observing the breathing is extremely powerful, because it puts you in the present moment instantly, just by observing the breathing. And repeat it as a loop. If you don't feel that at the end of observing the breathing, really your suffering is down and you manage to close the gap, if you still feel triggered, very simple, just re-loop it. Go back through those 5 steps and you will see that sometimes you need just one cycle, sometimes you need a few cycles. Eventually your resistance will go down. Now, since we're talking today about how to stop suffering and how to transition to becoming peaceful and more present, I've prepared for you a free resource that includes the suffering formula so that you can use it as a tool to remind yourself to close the gap and stop resisting. I've also included in it an advanced practice that will help you speed up the process of becoming more peaceful and becoming more present in a very effortless way. You can pick it up over on my blog for free at oliviapinto.com/2download. I will leave a link above or below this video so that you can click on it and it will take you to my blog. Or if you're already on my blog, just click on the green button below the video to get your suffering formula and your advanced practice so that you can really speed up the process and transition very peacefully into a present state in an effortless way. Question of the week: what do you usually do in order to transition from being very stressed to being peaceful? And how long does it take? I would love to know, what do you do in order to transition? So please share your answer in the comment section below this video. If you like this video and you feel it added some value to you, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends wherever they are in the world, and make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.